Hello everyone, live update here. I was just thinking, as you probably all know by now, I'm in the process of launching the Language of the Body, a 60-hour further training course for yoga teachers on a therapeutic and trauma-informed approach to teaching yoga. And I was wondering whether you might be wondering why I'm suddenly offering and running, organizing a training course for yoga teachers when, yes, you might know me from the yoga, but normally I run training courses in Thai massage. So I thought I'd come online and I don't know, maybe share my story a little bit as to how this came about, in case you want to know, you're curious. I was actually interviewed by the Yoga Alliance professionals yesterday, and we were talking about I run this course, Yoga for Healthy Backs, and that was really more the focus of the talk. But I realized, obviously, that was a complete reflection of what I believe in, what I do. So I still have a couple of notes from that, and I thought maybe I'll share some of those. So maybe just to my story. So movement and the body has somehow always played quite a role in my life, and that started with doing ballet when I was 6, for I don't know 6-7 years or so. Because of ballet, actually, we went to this super duper important teacher one time for preparation for some exam or something, and this teacher was constantly correcting my right side, my right shoulder. And I was lucky that my mum was an accompanying parent to the event. She saw it. We went to the doctors, and I was diagnosed with quite a severe scoliosis at that time, which resulted in me needing to wear a corset for 3 years, an orthopedic corset for 3 years, and do quite a lot of physio and that sort of stuff. I was lucky I didn't need surgery or anything, so it was all good. And we actually managed to correct the spine by quite a bit, by half, which was enough to kind of just live with, basically. But I still have scoliosis, and I'm quite sure that as soon as I stopped that corset treatment, everything just kind of went back as well. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm fine. I stopped ballet with that, funnily enough, but I continued dancing. So again, I was also really on the lucky side that nobody sort of told me I mustn't move anymore, do things that brought me joy. I was then dancing a lot of contemporary African dance and quite intensely so. So it was definitely more than just a kind of hobby. It was more of a serious hobby, as in almost every day. But that was my way of exploring the body, understanding my body, and supporting my body with also the back. And in my 20s, I then thought, you know what, maybe I just do some Pilates. That seems like a sensible thing instead of physio. That's just so boring. So I do some Pilates, and I was really quite enjoying that. And with my dancing, it's a great combo. And actually, at that time, yoga, I was like, no, I don't think so. Thank you very much. Nope. And actually, I think I'm still curious as to whether it was. I think I was just unlucky with the class. I might have tried, or I don't know, spending an entire hour upset. I was like, I don't understand why I should be doing this. Plus, it wasn't kind of computing with, I quite enjoyed, I made sense of the way that we were breathing in Pilates, and yoga was all opposite. And yeah, it was in the head. It was stuck somewhere. I wasn't going to do yoga. Maybe, I don't know, when I was 29, 30 or something, can't quite remember. I'm so bad with my timeline. Somebody at work dragged me along to this yoga class that they were offering there at work. I was like, leave me alone. No, try, she's great. Come. Okay, I literally sort of, fine. But I liked the girl that was teaching it. She was quite down to earth. She was making it quite real. And I kind of saw a little bit of a challenge in it. So my head was still very much involved in the process, thinking, gosh, I've been dancing my whole life. I've been doing this and Pilates and blah, blah, blah. I know my body. I can do my body. Why is this so difficult? because I was really like, I was finding it quite difficult to compute and follow and translate all those verbal instructions. And I was like, gosh, you know what's going on in those positions that she was putting us into. I was like, wow, this is hard work. Why am I struggling with this? So it was a little bit of a challenge. And I was like, nah, this is not going to beat me. And I remember literally that was the reason I kind of stuck with it at the beginning. Just like, you know, like I said, I like the teacher. And so what I then relatively quickly realized that it was really helping me with the kind of stress levels. I was doing quite a stressful job at the time in a quite fast-paced environment. And it was the perfect antidote. I was loving it. It was great. Very interestingly, and it wasn't a conscious decision process, but I stopped dancing at that moment in time. Literally, I just stopped from one day to the other. It wasn't a conscious decision or anything. I just stopped dancing when I picked up yoga. So something inside me, something in my body knew that it needed something different, that the dancing was actually not really serving my body. It kind of somehow knew, and that something else needed to happen. And then obviously very quickly realized, okay, there's somehow something a bit different here. Something is going on. There's something a bit more to yoga than just this kind of stretching and stuff. And I kind of, I went with the yoga because I thought, actually, I think this could be quite good for my back. I'm going to do this kind of as my maintaining my spinal health and back issues. And yeah, from there, it just changed so much. Like, it's ridiculous. I, was diving right in, really obviously realizing there was definitely something more to yoga than just the kind of physical exercise. People noticed that in me straight away and said, oh, you should become a teacher. I'm like, I don't think so. I was focused on my career. And, I was like, no, I don't think so. Anyway, did relatively quickly start my teacher training. I did a 2-year training, 500-hour training. But during all of that time, even though, my body was already kind of becoming aware and noticing what was happening, I was suffering from quite a bit of pain on my right side. So my right side is always kind of my scoliosis story. And I was receiving quite regular massages and ended up having to see my cranial osteopath, or a cranial osteopath. And he became my cranial osteopath at the time, every single week for like 3 months. And that in itself, it was getting borderline depressing, really. It was very frustrating, being reliant on somebody every week to put their hands on me. But I was lucky in that in my, until then, relatively brief journey, although I was already starting my teacher training, but, I had sort of attracted into my life some amazing teachers who already had a little bit of an eye on what was happening in my body and kind of just gave me little nudges and little hints. And I already had a little bit of an exposure to that there was something different, a different way of working with the body, a different way of practicing yoga, that there was something to do with structural support, there was something to do with fascia, there was something else, and somehow a way also of creating those conditions that what the osteopath was doing for me by ourselves in our own practice. And so I seeked out a Schiavarelli inspired yoga teacher, and believe it or not, in London this is like literally unheard of, but there was this amazing, wonderful, beautiful woman, Fairly, and she lived around the corner from my house. I mean, I'm talking literally 5-minute walk. This is amazing. In London, literally does not really normally ever happen. And I started working with her, and I'm not kidding, the week I started to work with her, I did not feel the need to go to the cranial osteopath anymore immediately. And yes, fair enough, I was then working with her every week, but it was very different because A, it was way more effective, and B, she was giving me the control back of my own well-being because I was creating those conditions in my own body with my practice. And at that moment in time, that was that empowerment that I really, really needed to shake off that, that kind of story that was building up in me. Oh my God, you know, like I'm too young for my scoliosis to be giving me so much grief, and da 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 da, and I'm gonna like, what's happening, and I'm gonna be crippled when I'm 60. Like, it wasn't conscious thinking necessarily like that extreme, but it's kind of like the story that was developing. Not a good story at all. And she was empowering me to just take charge of my own spine, my well-being, my back, which was, you know, so important. And I started to continue working with her and another Sky Ready Inspired teacher, and both of them, you know, they always ask, so how are things in the body? How's it going? And I'm like, yeah, I'm great, much better. My right side still a little bit, you know, so I always categorically mentioned my right side. And I don't know whether it was actually because my right side was actually doing anything, or because I was still attached to that story, or my ego just kind of, you know, just wanted to make sure that we are focusing on that. Thing was, they never even mentioned my right side. Neither one of them. They did not a single time mention my right side or gave it any special focus. And I was getting a little bit pissed off, you know, excuse my language. I was like, you know, what's going on? I'm paying them good money. Like, why are they not dealing with my right side? What is going on? It took me a little while to realize that it wasn't about my right side at all. In fact, it was about my body really wanting to be treated equally again, left and right, like same. Because the problem was the story that I had embodied around this whole problem and the pain that I was having in the right side of my body. That, you know, was really, really not serving me anymore. And what they did was they brought me back to the story of a whole body again, to a story of my spine is actually fine. Yes, it's in an S shape, but so what? It's fine. In fact, we did a great job with the treatment when I was a teenager. You know, it's all good. And my body just wanted to feel like I was treating it equally again, left and right. It's just, you know, coming back whole. And once I realized that, okay, taking this, you know, to a whole other level. And then I was coming to the end of my teacher training, and obviously as I changed my practice entirely, obviously I couldn't really ignore those principles and what my body was learning, and it started to get at the beginning just coloring the way I teach, and then at some point as I continued working with many different amazing teachers in the UK, then obviously really changing completely the way I practice and teach, obviously eventually as well. But I knew right from the beginning, just probably really from that story, my own story, that I wanted to work more therapeutically. And I'm not surprised in the slightest that right from the beginning I was attracting people with all sorts of stuff going on. And so really not surprised that I immediately took up another training in Thai massage. That was another massive deep dive, as my teacher then invited me to come and observe and assist and co-teach and assist and co-teach, to eventually become a teacher myself super quickly. It was a huge deep dive in. I also trained in manual lymph drainage, and again with all of that combined, was attracting even more people really with all sorts of stuff going on very, very quickly. And so this whole therapeutic angle was developing. And again, then no surprise that that continued into the study of OsteoThai, which I've now been doing for, I think, 6 years or so, and studying all of those osteopathic principles. And that is now, all of that experience and that study and the work as a therapist and my hands-on and also teaching it, is now coming right back into informing the yoga practice, which I'm loving. So I guess I would say that it's definitely, this whole story for me started with my spine. So I'm very grateful to my scoliosis now in some level. My spine has been like one of my greatest teachers. And I'm also kind of enjoying being my own best case study somehow. It's quite nice. So all of this is taking me to, all of my understanding and my beliefs where I am right now, that whole accumulation of things in that work. And what I'm now bringing into the yoga practice is really very much coming from that experience as a body worker and as a therapist. It's about creating or finding ways to create those principles and conditions in the body in our own practice. And I'll be looking at a whole bunch of different things, and that's kind of breaking down some of those habitual holding patterns that we carry around with us and keep rebuilding on a daily basis, shaking those up, undoing those. It's work with fascial release, which can help us also with a slightly more immediate kind of effect, but then also long term. And that's again also about sort of shifting patterns and breaking those down. It's about the way that we relate to the world, the ground, the space around us. We're a being of relations. Again, that's being numbed down, and we lose that innate relationship and innate intelligence of relation. Just again through our normal Western lifestyle in a concrete world, plus all of the stories and dramas of our life and whatnot. Just life. I love working with the whole diaphragmatic pressure system that I would definitely kind of focus on in every single treatment I give, and now finding ways to create all of those conditions in our own body. I adore Qigong, and obviously with the Thai massage and drawing from traditional Chinese medicine as well. Obviously I do work with the flow of qi, the flow of energy. So I love stimulating that. And kind of all together, I think the main thing, everything that leads to, is about changing that story, changing the narrative of the story that somehow dictates our life at that moment in time, that's causing us the problem. So that story of the pain, the story of the problem that we've even become, we've embodied it completely, to the story of healing, of health, of well-being, that is already in our blueprint. Like, our body actually has that intelligence, that information already there. It's just that it's covered up with everything that kind of happened in our life and has created some kind of pattern in our being, and our cells, and our nervous system, and our tissues, and our body, and our behavior, and our thought process, and our emotional patterns, our ego patterns. All of that is just a summary of our life and of survival, actually, on a biological level. But some of those patterns are definitely no longer serving us. So I think the work that we do, that we need to do within our practice, and it's the work that I do as a therapist, is facilitating a space that is safe enough and comfortable enough so people can start to change those stories, the narrative of that story. And so, this is kind of literally like the starting point of any Thai massage training that I give, even just a workshop, a beginner's introduction, little taster. I always say, I can't fix anyone. And so when we touch people, it has to be without any agenda at all whatsoever. We are not there to fix anyone, because we can't. It's not possible. And I know that anyone who's become a therapist, a body worker, a yoga teacher has probably done so because their passion is helping and supporting people and wanting to improve the quality of their life. And so maybe there is an underlying expectation, either in yourself or from your clients and students, that you are going to fix them. But it's really important to understand that we can't. All we can do is support people in that process of the healing that they need to do themselves, by helping them maybe improve some of the actual sort of circumstances and conditions in the body, for sure, but mainly in creating a safe environment where that healing can take place, a place of less conflict, of more comfort. Because only when the body is in that place there is any healing available. And that is, everybody globally, no matter what tradition or science you believe in, we are actually agreed on, because it goes all the way down to it just being fact when it comes to your nervous system. This is a neurological process. As long as we are in some kind of triggered place in the nervous system of arousal, of stress, potentially even in kind of some sort of trauma response and stuck there, healing will not take place, no matter what's going on and what else you pump into your system, what you do. We need to go to a place of safety. And that's something that we can help people with. That's something we can do. We can work with them to create that. And that is the work that I have been doing. And there's the focus of the work as a therapist. And all of that work in OsteoTi and Thai massage has brought me to this place of understanding and experience and insight and knowledge in my hands, but also just my knowing. And in a way, maybe lockdown and the pandemic has given me the opportunity to finally crystallize it and manifest it somehow into the yoga. Because before, my real passion and focus was for sure probably a little bit more on the Thai massage and the OsteoTi and giving treatments, and growing in that space and learning and studying and deepening my practice. And okay, so I wasn't able to touch anyone, nor was I able to get together in a room with anyone to teach anyone. So, I stayed with the work, with the essence of the work. We just came back to my yoga practice, and it finally, actually what was already happening and going on in the way I was practicing and teaching yoga, all of this experience in the work and study that I've been doing with the OsteoTi in particular, has now started to make actual sense of what was always going on in that yoga practice. It was really crystallizing it. It was manifesting it into and bringing it out into conscious understanding, if that makes sense. So what was kind of more felt sense and understanding and conviction suddenly was also going, okay, I get it now. So it was almost like explaining what I was doing in my body before, now with actual experience and knowledge. And so it's become a very natural progression from there to share that, because actually that's been bubbling away over the last, I think actually ever since I've been in Lisbon and running a studio, and kind of wanting to somehow create, maybe one day I will do an actual yoga teacher training right from scratch, but always really wanted to work with teachers and to share that therapeutic angle on the potential that we have, and a passion in creating inclusive, accessible and sustainable yoga. So that's always been really at the kind of core of the space that we created in the studio, that's what we wanted to offer. I was saying before, as a metaphor, in the work that we do is about creating that safe space, but I was creating that physically at the studio. So with that, there was always this kind of thought bubbling away that maybe I might just kind of do this sort of little training module or share some of this work that I'm doing, but kind of relating it to the teaching of yoga. And now I had the time to develop it. So here we are. That's why I am suddenly offering a course for yoga teachers. It's quite a long anecdote. Maybe I should have prepared it and made it a little bit sharper and shorter. Those who know me know that I easily carry on and waffle a little bit. But yeah, I still wanted to share the story because it's just a story, really. And so yeah, I guess this training course for yoga teachers is very much a natural progression and summary and accumulation and consolidation of everything I do and believe in, applied to the world of teaching yoga. And I think it's necessary, it's important work, it's what I feel passionate about, that kind of, inclusivity, accessibility, and sustainability in yoga. And it's nice to see that there is a development into that direction now happening across the world, really. It's good to see. So yeah, it's nice. So yeah, I wanted to share that story. So a couple of things to maybe note if anyone is watching and still watching or watching later. The early bird for this training course. The training course starts on the 27th of March. It's online, obviously, over a course of 6 months with 8 modules. But the early bird for that, and it's a saving of €100, so quite a good saving. It ends this Sunday, the 7th of March. Tomorrow, Saturday, the 6th, there's 2 events happening that if you were sort of already like thinking, this sounds sort of interesting, maybe not, I don't know, or you're definitely interested, or you just want to know, you're curious, I'm doing a free orientation call in the morning at 11 o'clock. That's Lisbon and London time. It'll be 12 o'clock in Germany. And you can sign up to that. I'm going to post the links below the video where you can register. You can just sign up to that. And it'll just be me giving a little insight to what this is about, maybe a little guided tour of the online platform so you can see. But really, it's an opportunity for you to ask your questions. So any question you might have, that's what that call is for, to get to know me if you don't know me yet, all of that. And then in the afternoon, and there's 4 places left only, I am running a quite popular workshop, again, the story of the pelvic floor. It's a 3-hour workshop. You get the recording, you get some bonus videos, you get a handout, It's half theory, half practice. And it's just a nice opportunity maybe to those of you who've not done any yoga with me to experience it, to actually feel it, what it's like. It's not like a workshop I'm just putting on to sell you the program. No, it's the real thing. I will spend like 5 minutes at the end to just tell you about the program again, but that's it. And it's on a pay what you can basis with a €10 deposit. So you pay €10, kind of fair enough. There's a little bit of a commitment happening, but then at the end of the workshop, you decide if and how much more you might want to pay, and if you don't, that's also fine. It's also a nice way to pay forward. So those of you who can and want to pay more, that's great to allow others to pay less, and maybe you will then one day be grateful for somebody else having paid forward for when maybe you want to or need to pay less. So anyway, that's happening tomorrow for 3 hours. It starts at 2:30 in the afternoon. That's again London, Lisbon time. €10 down payment, 4 spaces left. I'll post the link. So those 2 events, for those of you, if you are maybe interested in this whole thing, if you feel drawn of always kind of a little bit, maybe you have a similar story, somehow you are drawn to work more therapeutically, and deep down that that's really what you want to do, that you want to be more inclusive, you want to be more trauma informed, because in some way or another we are all trauma survivors. Then there's no commitment, no obligation if you come along to one of those two events tomorrow, but maybe just to see because you're curious. But I wanted to point it out just because the early bird does end on the Sunday, and end of Sunday, and I don't want you to lose out if you were interested. So there you go. I'll post the links. Thank you so much for watching, whether that was live or a replay. Any questions at all outside of this, like if I haven't mentioned it, comment below, send me an email. You've got my details. It's all on this page. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend.